The apartment was finally quiet. Ethan Miller stood in the narrow strip of hallway outside Lily's bedroom, one hand still on the doorknob, listening as if the sound might change, like sleep was a fragile thing that could be startled away if he breathed wrong. Lily's breathing stayed steady, soft, certain. He should have felt relief. Instead, his chest remained tight with the kind of tension that didn't come from work or parenting or bills. Those were familiar weights. Manageable, in the way you learn to manage anything that didn't give you a choice. Tonight was different. Tonight was elective. He checked his watch, 7:45 p.m. The reservation was at 8:30. His phone buzzed again, as it had every few minutes since 6. He didn't need to look to know who it was. Jake. Ethan glanced down anyway. Jake *, you better not be bailing. I already told her you're a great guy. Don't make me a liar. Ethan exhaled through his nose, careful not to make noise. The last thing he needed was Lily waking up and asking him why he was leaving. He typed back with his thumb. Ethan *, I'm going. Relax. The reply came instantly, like Jake had been hovering over the screen waiting for proof that his meddling hadn't backfired. Jake *, good. You need this, man. When's the last time you did something for yourself? Ethan stared at the question longer than he should have, because the answer had edges he didn't like. Before the divorce, his mind supplied. Before Amanda's voice had gone flat at their kitchen table. Before custody paperwork. Before Lily's questions that Ethan answered carefully, like stepping around broken glass. He didn't reply. He slid the phone into his pocket, turned the knob, and cracked Lily's door open just enough to look in. Her nightlight cast a pale amber pool over her bed. She had one arm flung across Mr. Trunks, the stuffed elephant Ethan had won at the state fair in a lucky ring toss, like she could anchor herself to the world through fabric and stuffing. Ethan watched her a moment, guilt rising for no logical reason. Going to dinner didn't make him a bad father. It was one meal, one evening. Still, she'd fought sleep tonight. One more story, one more sip of water, one more promise. The promises had come easily. They always did. I'll be here when you wake up, he'd said, like he could lock reality into place with words. He closed the door softly and walked back to his bedroom, where 2 shirts lay on the bed, navy and gray. They looked like versions of the same idea. Safe. Forgettable. The kind of clothing that didn't invite attention. He picked up the navy one, held it up, considered it like it might betray him. Stop, he muttered under his breath. It's just dinner. But the anxiety didn't care about logic. It sat in his body like a second heart. Dating, Ethan realized, felt like speaking a language he used to know fluently but hadn't practiced in years. He could remember the rules in theory. Be interesting, ask questions, don't talk about your ex. But the muscle memory was gone. And what did he even have to offer now? He could lead with the fact that he knew 3 different ways to remove glitter from upholstery. Or that he could braid hair one-handed while packing a lunch with the other. Or that last week Lily had had a full-scale meltdown in Target because he'd bought the wrong brand of yogurt, and apparently that meant the entire universe was unsafe. Not exactly charming. He dressed, buttoning the shirt slowly. In the mirror, he caught himself at an angle that made him look older than 34. There was silver at his temples now. Faint lines at the corners of his eyes. Shoulders held too tight, as if he still expected something to hit. He looked like what he was, a man who'd learned how to endure. The divorce hadn't ruined him all at once. It had carved him down slowly, leaving only what he needed to keep Lily's world steady. He adjusted his collar and tried to ignore the echo of Amanda's last day in the apartment, the way she'd packed with speed and efficiency like she couldn't wait to erase her life from the space. The way Lily had cried so hard she hiccuped. The way Ethan hadn't cried at all until later, alone, after both of them were gone. He shoved the memory away, grabbed his wallet and keys, and went to the living room. Mrs. Chun, his neighbor, sat on his couch like she belonged there, because, in a way, she did. Her knitting needles clicked softly in time with a British baking show. Lily adored her. Ethan relied on her more than he liked to admit. Have a nice evening, Mr. Miller, she said, not looking away from her work. Her voice carried warmth without curiosity. No prying questions. No judgment. Thanks, Ethan replied. I'll be back by 11. Mrs. Chen made a small sound in her throat. Approval, amusement, maybe both. Take your time. Enjoy yourself. Ethan didn't correct her. He wasn't sure enjoyment was part of the schedule. Outside, Chicago was sharp with October cold. The skyline glittered as if it were trying to distract the city from how quickly winter would arrive. Ethan drove downtown with the radio low, his mind turning over every detail he didn't want to think about. A blind date, at his age, set up by his brother, who couldn't leave well enough alone. Jake had said she was smart and successful and not weird about kids, which, frankly, was already suspicious. Ethan parked 2 blocks from the restaurant and checked his reflection in the rearview mirror again. He looked fine, like a man trying. The restaurant was one of those upscale Italian places that smelled like money, dark wood, amber lighting, tables close enough to encourage intimacy. Through the windows, he saw couples leaning in toward each other, hands around wine glasses, faces lit by candlelight. Ethan's stomach tightened. He stepped inside anyway. The hostess greeted him with a smile polished to perfection. "Good evening. Reservation." "Miller," Ethan said. 8:30. She tapped her tablet. "Yes. Your party hasn't arrived yet. Would you like to wait at the bar or be seated?" "I'll sit. Thanks." She led him toward the back, to a corner table that offered both privacy and a clear view of the room. Ethan sat, placed his napkin on his lap like he was trying to remember how to be normal. He scanned the menu without reading. His phone buzzed again. "Jake asterisk, how's it going?" Ethan considered lying. Considered saying it was fine, that he was relaxed, that he definitely didn't feel like he might bolt. He typed, "Ethan asterisk, just sat down. She's not here yet. Jake asterisk, don't be weird. Just be yourself." Ethan stared at the screen. "That's what I'm afraid of." He didn't send it. He set the phone face down and forced himself to breathe. Around him the restaurant hummed, silverware clinking, laughter rising and falling, quiet jazz threading through the air. A waiter appeared, offered water, recited specials. Ethan nodded at the appropriate places. Then movement near the entrance caught his eye. He looked up automatically. A woman had just stepped inside. She wasn't dressed loudly. No glittering jewelry, no dramatic heels. But everything about her carried authority. The way she stood, the way the room subtly adjusted around her, as if people moved aside without realizing they were doing it. Tall, dark hair swept back into a low twist. A charcoal dress that looked simple until you noticed how perfectly it fit. For a moment Ethan's brain offered a neutral observation, asterisk pretty, composed, out of my league asterisk, and then recognition slammed into him so hard his pulse stuttered. Victoria Hale, CEO of Hale and Sorensen Technologies. His CEO, the woman whose name sat at the top of company-wide emails. The one who could walk into a room and make department heads sit straighter. The one who had rejected his optimization proposal in 3 consecutive meetings with calm, surgical precision. The one whose signature, in an abstract way, kept Lily fed and housed. Ethan's blood turned to ice. No, there were millions of people in Chicago. Jake could have set him up with anyone. A teacher, a nurse, a stranger with no connection to Ethan's fragile, hard-won stability. Victoria's gaze swept the room. Found him. And Ethan watched her expression change in real time. From polite expectation to confusion to something sharper, almost alarmed. She stopped walking. Just froze, 5 feet from his table, her hand tightening around the strap of her purse. For a suspended second, the restaurant kept moving around them as if they were standing still in a different reality. Then Victoria recovered first, because of course she did. "Mr. Miller," she said, voice controlled, professional, but the shock was still there under the surface, like a crack in glass. "MS. Hale." Ethan stood automatically, his body obeying old office instincts even while his mind screamed at him to sit down, disappear, rewind time. They stared at each other. This wasn't awkward. Awkward was bumping into your boss in the grocery store. This was catastrophic. Victoria's eyes flicked briefly toward the hostess stand, where the hostess watched with polite curiosity. A waiter near the bar paused, attention drawn. Victoria lowered her voice, her lips barely moving. "I think there's been a mistake." Ethan's throat felt tight. Yeah. Another beat. Then Victoria's posture shifted, shoulders back, chin level, the public mask sliding into place with practiced ease. "We're both here," she said softly. "If we leave separately right now, it'll cause a scene." Ethan blinked. A scene. "People are watching," she murmured, and she was right. It wasn't blatant, but it was there, the tiny tilt of heads, the quick glances, the curiosity that would become a story by tomorrow. CEO storms out of restaurant after confronting employee. Even if no one knew who Ethan was, they'd know her. Victoria Hale didn't exist anonymously anywhere in this city. Ethan's mind raced. So what do you suggest? Victoria held his gaze. We sit. We eat. If anyone asks, this was a business dinner. Then we leave. And tomorrow, this never happened. It was absurd. It was the only option that didn't end with immediate fallout. Ethan forced air into his lungs. Okay. Victoria slid into the chair across from him with the same grace she brought to boardrooms. Ethan sat too, feeling like he'd stepped into a trap he hadn't seen until it snapped shut. The waiter appeared. Good evening. Can I start you off with drinks? Red wine, Victoria said without looking at the menu. Whatever you recommend. Ethan heard himself say, same, though he rarely drank wine. The waiter left. Silence settled between them, dense and strange. Ethan tried to find words that weren't dangerous. I didn't know, he said finally. My brother set this up. I swear I had no idea it was you. I didn't know either, Victoria replied. Her hands folded neatly on the table, posture perfect. A friend arranged it. She insisted I needed to get out more. Ethan let out a short breath that might have been a laugh in another life. Jake said the same. Their eyes met again. And for the first time, Ethan noticed something he'd never seen in conference rooms. A flicker of uncertainty in her gaze. Like she didn't know what came next either. The wine arrived. Ethan took a sip, grateful for something to do. Victoria took a sip too, then set her glass down with deliberate care. We should establish ground rules, she said. Ethan lifted his eyebrows. For the date we're pretending isn't a date? For the dinner that will not destroy our lives, Victoria corrected calmly. Yes. He exhaled. Fine. Ground rules. Victoria's eyes stayed on his. First, nothing we discuss tonight leaves this table. Agreed. Second, we do not discuss work. Ethan hesitated. It was almost laughable, considering who they were to each other. Still, he nodded. Okay. Third, we finish our meal, thank each other politely, and leave. Tomorrow, this never happened. Ethan swallowed. Deal. Victoria's shoulders eased by a fraction, as if even she needed structure to survive something like this. They both picked up their menus like shields. For a few minutes, the only sound was paper shifting, the low hum of the room, the clink of glass. Ethan stared at words he couldn't absorb. And somewhere under the fear, under the job risk, the humiliation, the sheer surreal impossibility of it, another feeling sparked, quiet and unwelcome. Curiosity. Because for the first time, Victoria Hale wasn't a title across a conference table. She was a woman sitting across from him, trying not to let her life derail in public. Just like him. If this opening voice works for you, I'll continue with part 2, expanding the dinner into a more layered scene, subtext, backstory reveals, the foundation connection seeded earlier, and stronger emotional pivots, and we'll build toward 20,000 words total. Reply with your answers to the 4 preferences, and tell me, do you want more drama/angst or more warmth/slow burn as the primary flavor?